Welcome once again, boys and girls, to the Bass Kayak and Beers podcast on the Paddle and Fin Network. Got a great show for you as always. Got Andrew Jacobson, winner of the Angler of the Year for the Southeast Texas Kayak Fishing League, I think it is. He'll correct me. But anyways, super excited to have Andrew Jacobson joining us. He's also one of the tournament directors, one of three tournament directors for the TKC Texas Kayak Championship, which has its classic right here, kind of around the 8th of October. It's a two-day classic, an exciting tournament that we're going to be talking about as well. I promised myself on the intro I wasn't going to do my every time I do an awkward pause. So I'm trying to get better at this whole monologue intro. This is not something I enjoy doing, my monologues intro, but I do it for you guys so I can plug in the commercials we need to plug in for waypoints and kind of make it run smoother. So I'm not even going to edit it if I do any umps. But anyways, great show for you today. As far as what we got looking forward for next week, we got the Lone Star Throwdown, October 9th. That's going to be super exciting. It's going to be in Belton Lake and also Stillhouse Reservoir. I forgot the name. I know it starts with Stillhouse. But that's going to be an exciting tournament, October 9th. I am so hoping. I wish I could have been there, but I got family. Got my mom visiting from Puerto Rico that weekend, so I need to spend time with her. We'll see if I can move things around and still make it. But man, oh man, is that going to be exciting. And whoever wins it, I'm sure I'm going to try to get him on the podcast so you guys can listen to that one, because that's another exciting tournament that it comes every year at the same time here in Texas, and everybody in Texas loves it and looking forward to it, at least everybody that's involved in kayak fishing. But anyways, that's what we got for you today. We're going to bring Andrew Jacobson in a moment, but first we'll go to a quick commercial. We'll be right back with Andrew Jacobson. Mr. Andrew Jacobson with the Bling Bling. How you doing, man?
Good to see you, buddy. Yeah, check this out. It's quite heavy, by the way. I wasn't quite prepared for how heavy it was going to be, but I don't see how those rappers do it, quite frankly.
Man, that's like is that solid gold and diamonds?
It's got to be. SETXKBL goes all the way out. I'm sure this is worth several $100,000.
I saw you with that. I was like, wait a minute. Do I have one of the original members for the Beastie Boys with this? That's today, and I didn't know about it.
I'm like Vanilla Ice's crappier old geriatric. I'll wear it, and I'm gonna wear it proudly. So
hey, word to work, word to church, man. You wore that thing proud, man. Congratulations.
I get some weird looks, but I think I'm gonna do it, quite frankly.
Just be careful what neighborhoods you wear it, though. You don't want to get looking at the barrel of a gun there for wearing that, though.
Nobody's taking my chain. Nobody's taking my chain.
Definitely not, man. But joking with all that, before we move after, that was cruel on my part. I'm sorry about that. But looks good, man. Looks good. Anyways, congratulations, man. Yeah. Southeast Texas Kayak Fishing, man.
Yeah, Southeast Texas Kayak Bass League. It's quite a mouthful. We call ourselves the Alphabet Crew, just because there's so many consonants in there and vowels. And SETXKBL, run by tournament director Chris Morales, awesome guy. Good bunch of folks. They're out of the Houston area for the most part. I'm a little bit of an outsider. I'm from the Austin area, but I've been fishing them every single event from the outset. It started 3 years ago. Haven't missed an event. Good bunch of guys.
First time winning the Angler of the Year with them?
First time, yep. I've been in the running, but I was never as close as this year. And I was really the Cinderella story. The other three guys that I was in competition with for Angler of the Year, they all had pretty sizable leads going into this last event. The two lakes we fished were Athens on day one and Palestine on day two, or Palestine, or Palestine, I think is how they pronounce it. And everything had to go right, and fortunately it did in my case, because I thought for sure, I just had kind of a mediocre day on the second day, and I thought, well, that's not going to be enough. But so few people did outstanding that I slid right in there, and just enough spacing between me and the other guys to where I came out on top just by a single point in the AOL standings. I mean,
Wow. Did you actually won the tournament on the
I
two-day
came in
tournament?
fifth. I came in
Fifth.
fifth. And I was all alone in fifth. The guy ahead of me was like 9 inches ahead of me in fourth, and the guy behind me in sixth place was like 7 inches behind me. So all alone in fifth. I won a little money there, but the big thing was taking home the Angler of the Year for S4E2463, and also I got a great trolling motor, so I won't have to wear myself
Nice.
out paddling around like I've been doing the past past 10 years or so.
Alan Cox actually won that tournament,
Yeah,
didn't he?
He did.
Oh, congratulations to Alan.
Andrew Middlebrook came in second. Alan, he put a whooping on us. There was quite a bit of a difference between first, second, third, fourth, and like I said, I was kind of all alone in fifth. But tough day on Palestine, and anybody who's fished that lake can tell you it can treat you wrong if you don't find them.
Yeah, Palestine this year has been, I mean, it's been tough, man. I fished it for the TKC. You were in that tournament as well.
I skunked.
Yeah, I managed to catch two, but man, oh man, it was a tough one. Yeah. I think that was like 2 weeks after the Snowmageddon.
Yep.
So I figured, it's like, okay, kind of expected it. Fish are still trying to get used to, I guess, something that probably many of those fish have never seen before in their life. Well, yeah, so
Palestine's a pretty shallow lake,
Yeah,
overall.
It is.
It's very stained, and it tends to be shallow. So I had trouble finding them during TKC. I thought what I was throwing was going to work. So, that kind of colored my impression of how the day was going to go for me last Sunday. And sure enough, it was a tough one. So what I did was I went out on the main lake and just basically threw wacky Senkos under docks, and I got into some spotted bass, and I got on enough of them to limit out. Not much of a limit. I mean, barely not even 70 inches. Right there at 70 inches. So you're talking 14-inch fish, and but that was enough. None of the other three competitors were able to fill out their limits for day two. And you know what they say, you got to limit out if you're going to win.
Yeah, no, they've said it before, and trying to, they say separate the men from the boys, but nowadays, there's a lot of ladies out there competing, so we kind of like be politically correct, separates the adults from the child, I should say. But yeah, 2-day tournaments definitely do that.
Well, if you talk about separating the men from the boys and the men from the women, you gotta take Miss Fisher and Miss Field into account, because those two are hell of a sticks, and they would put a whooping on me and you like you wouldn't believe.
Oh, definitely, and that's what I say. Being politically correct, let's just say adults from the children.
Yeah, well, that's one thing I love about the kayak fishing world.
Yeah,
it's it doesn't matter your economic background, your whatever. You could be anybody, and as long as you know how to fish, you're going to gain respect within the community. If you follow the rules, if you're not a jerk on the water, people are going to respect you, and you're going to gain respect.
Definitely. So Andrew, take us through your season. You said you fish every single event for this tournament, or for this trail, I should say. So how did the season started? How did it go midway? And obviously we know how it ended, but at what point do you realize, hey, I might even actually win Angler of the Year?
Well, it started off kind of rough for me. We every year we start off on Lake Fayette. I don't know if you fish Fayette, but that is a great fishing lake.
Yeah. And
there are so many good fish that people are going to limit. And I got a decent limit. I got a 85-inch limit, I think, but that was not enough to even get me anywhere close to the money. And I think I finished like in the mid-20s or something like that. So that was the one tournament I had to drop. And Fayette has treated me so well in the past. I won tournaments out there. Well, not won them. I've come in second like 3 times on some major tournaments out there, kayak tournaments, but not this time. So, Fayette was my first stumble, and I thought, well, we'll have to see how I do on some of these other lakes that I'm not as familiar with. And we went to Conroe, and Conroe's a lake. I thought, well, those Houston guys, that they're gonna just school me like a 3-year-old, but I did okay on that one. And I thought, well, if I'm in a position where I can do well, maybe I can drop that Fayette score. And then we went to Choke Canyon, another lake that I don't fish that much down there by San Antonio. And I actually won third in that one, and that really got me kind of amped up. I thought, all right, now I'm in it. And I had kind of a downer on Rayburn. Big Sam didn't treat me that great. I think I came in 13th, but still, it was enough points in the Angler of the Year race that gave me an outside chance, a puncher's chance, as Chris Morales says, for the Classic, for the last event this last weekend. And things came together. My day one, we fished Athens, which I really like. That's a fun lake.
It is.
Everybody launches from the same launch spot. A lot of vegetation. I knew that the way that the fish had lined up for me during my pre-fish, that if I wanted to really do well, I was going to have to focus on the schoolies. I thought I had that figured out, but they didn't show up until pretty late in the day. I got one really good fish in the morning throwing under docks. I got a 21 3/4 pitching a Senko under a dock. I got a smaller fish to go along with that. And then late in the afternoon, I hit the schoolies with the jerkbait, and that was it. I got my low 8s, 82 3/4 inches, and this was a totally blind tournament. The tournament director decided he wasn't going to have anybody seeing anybody's scores. And so I didn't know if that was a good day, a bad day, but I had the feeling that it was kind of a okay day. I think I came in 9th overall on the day. I didn't know where that was, but I knew it was okay. And like, the adage goes, you don't win a 2-day tournament on day one, but you can sure lose it.
Yep.
And day 2, we went to Palestine, and boy, she just put a whooping on a bunch of folks. I got my small limit by throwing Senkos under docks, and I got into some spotted bass, not big ones, 13, 14-inch fish, but where you can find one spotted bass, you usually find another one.
Yep.
So I was pulling those spots out and measuring them up, and I actually finished my limit out faster on Palestine than I did on Athens. I got my limit around noon, and I did something stupid. I submitted a fish, and I did confirm that it went through. And then I had some fish that would have not really added to my score, but I didn't know it. But one of my bigger fish didn't make it, so I was just throwing those back, and that would have increased my overall score by a little bit, not much. But I ended up with 69 3/4 on day 2. Went back to the ramp, took my boat out, sat around waiting for the rest of the folks to come in. I was kind of dejected, Even in the morning going in, I thought, you know what? I really needed, as an outside dark horse candidate, I really needed to have a good day 1 on Athens. I didn't have that. I got my limit on day 2, but I didn't get a big limit. I needed to have one of those two things happen, either a good day 1 or a good day 2. I had 2 just kind of mediocre days. But when Chris called my name as Angler of the Year, I beat the number 2 guy, Ruben Martinez, by a single point. And
wow.
It's crazy because, all the fishing that we did all year long, 6 different lakes, all the time that we spent on the water, one lousy 12-inch fish for any of the other 3 guys that I was competing against on day 2 on Palestine would have changed the standings remarkably, and I wouldn't have won. some of the people that were interposed between me and the people that finished below me in the Angler of the Year, if they hadn't done better. I mean, any number of things could have happened that would have prevented me from winning, but it happened the way it did, and you could have floored me. You could have just knocked me over with a feather at that point. And I probably rambled and stumbled through my acceptance speech, kind of like I'm doing right now.
No, it's a great content, man. I mean, I'm sure that's what the listeners want to hear. All the stories, all the behind the scenes of how you got to where you got. And it's interesting because when you think about, I mean, I know I'm going to be biased because I live in Texas and I love Texas and I love Texas fishing. But truly, we have some of the best anglers in the nation here. And maybe not all of them were part of the Southeast Texas Kayak Bass Fishing League. But, I mean, there's some really good anglers at that league. I've seen the standings on it, and you guys have some hammers there as well. I mean, people always think, and rightfully so, we talk about Guillermo Gonzalez, Matthew Scotch, all very deserving of all the accolades of what they've done, especially what they did on Pickwick. But other than that, I mean, local trails here have some, I mean, Slay Nation has guys like Christian, Matthew Wallace, Matt Biles that you will never hear, but they're local hammers. Same thing with Rolando Nandin. He may not be known nationally, but he's another great angler. J.R. Maccabee,
Yep.
Jeff Isham. I mean, the list, and I apologize to the ones that I haven't mentioned. I mean, there's a long list of great anglers here. Mark Pendergraft. Almost forgot about Mark Pendergraft there for a second. Possibly.
I compete against, the guys in Cats. I compete against the guys in SETXKBL. I don't have the opportunity to fish against the guys from North Texas or East Texas the way I'd like to, as much as I should. I don't know their names as well as you do, but I do know their names. And I know that when we get together here for the throwdown in the next few weeks, it's going to be a blast because it's going to be Texas. And, if you're from out of state and you can make it in for that, please do, because you'll get to see some real sticks on display. And it's just fun.
It's the throwdown is not just a great tournament. It is also like a celebration for Texas kayak fishing.
Exactly.
Bass fishing. It's such a fun time. There's going to be great anglers, great also content creators. I know Brandon Mays from that bass fishing dude is going to be, and the other anglers that do a little bit of content creating kayak fishing going to be there. I mean, it is a celebration of Texas fishing for sure. Texas bass fishing, I should say. And it's such a great time. Anybody, if you live around the area and you want to drive down, do the drive. It's worth it. It's a great time. And it's two great lakes, Stillhouse and Belton. I mean, we had Belton at TKC. I know you being part of the TKC tournament directors. That was another great. Rolando Nandin actually won that one.
Yes, he did. Rolando's a real stick, and there are quite a few sticks in Central Texas, South Texas, San Antonio area, Austin area. This one's in our backyard, so there's no excuse for the Central that I represent not to do well, because it's Belton's a good lake. It's a little bit more, I would say, bluffs and rocky, whereas Stillhouse Hollow, you're going to see a lot more hydrilla. It's a very clear lake. You'll definitely get a limit, in either lake, but I don't know. It'll really kind of boil down to who can get on the big ones.
Yeah, Stillhouse, a lot of grass over there in some areas. So even though they're next to each other, I wouldn't say fish completely different, but I mean, it is different. I mean, the approach that the game plan between one or the other could vary drastically.
Yeah, and I love Belton just for the fact that you can, get into some really nice smallies too, and that's something you can do in every lake in Texas. So I'm looking forward to doing a little pre-fishing and seeing some people I haven't seen for a while, seeing some faces that I haven't seen since the spring, and get to see some people I hadn't seen since last year. Duke throws a great event, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Like I said, it's kind of like a party with the backdrop of a tournament going on.
No. And speaking of that, you just mentioned Duke Tran. I mean, one of the things that we have here in Texas is we have a bunch of great tournament directors, and I don't
Yeah.
know all of them by name, so I do apologize for the ones that I don't mention. But obviously, Chris Morales, one of the better known. Patrick Malone also has done a great job here, and we wish Patrick Malone and the whole Malone family the best. By the way,
Yeah.
you're working with TKC, Duke Tran with the North Texas Kayak Fishing. I mean, we're blessed with having such great people doing a great job as tournament directors. And we were talking about it on the pre-recording. You know, tournament director is one of those jobs where the less your name comes up, the better you're doing. One thing that I really appreciate about, for example, what Chris Morales does, and I'm not gonna say he's copying, but I do see a lot of similarities what Chris Morales does and what AJ McWhorter does with the Hobie BOS. Which, if you look at AJ, he's never interested in being the face of Hobie BOS. And there's not a lot of tournament director. Chris Morales is another one that does that great. He's not interested in being the face of it. He'd rather be behind the scenes and make sure everything runs as smooth as it can. And there's going to be hiccups. Doesn't matter whether it's Hobie BOS, whether it's Bassmasters or Bass Nation Kayak Series, I should say, KBF. The problem with, and you know, we see with KBF when one person tries to be the face of it, it could be good for your social media content and your growth, but there is also a lot of heat that comes your way. And why I really appreciate it, going back to what Chris Morales does and what AJ does, is like they're not interested in just being in the face. They just want the anglers that are competing and putting on the show to be the face of the tournament scene and not themselves. So big shout out to them, because again, when your name comes up, it's usually because something didn't go right and everybody is pooping on your parade. You know, everybody's quick to point out the finger. Everybody's quick to say, you know, oh, shouldn't be have done. This should have happened. But everything works out great. Nobody mentions tournament director. Everybody's going to mention who won the tournament, Angler of the Year or Tournament of Champions, whoever won that. And that's the way it should be in a sense. You know, the ones who actually win the tournament should be the ones, you know, getting all the accolades. But let's take some time to appreciate what Chris Morales, you yourself have done with the TKC, and Duke Tran, and a bunch of others here in Texas and around the nation that really do put on great job and make sure that the anglers get the spotlight and not necessarily themselves.
Right, and I think that's so critical, that the spotlight beyond the anglers, and that their achievements are what should be, you know, put front and center, not the tournament director.
Yeah.
And I think we all know what we're talking about without saying the name. But you know, we're really blessed here in Texas. We've got people that understand that. I mean, even though it's his first year, Kate Paskowitz with the Cats Angler Tournament Series did a fantastic job, and you know, he got hit with a cheater right off the bat, and he had to deal with that. So, you know, it unfortunately, we have a kind of reputation here in Texas of having some cheating anglers, but we're catching them. And I think that's just a function of how many tournament trails we have, too. You know, the number of people that we have in the kayak angling community we have here in Texas, the number of trails we have, there's bound to be some bad apples, but we're catching them. And, you know, better not be too blatant about it, because we are from Texas.
Cliff, what is his name? Clifton Allen is going to expose you on a KBN group page if you cheat, that's for sure. You'll make sure. It's kind of like a double-edged sword, because we're always on that, you know, he's putting it out there on the KBN group page. It's like, come on, Cliff, try to look for somebody from another state that's cheating. I'm sure they're there. Look for those every now and then.
Cliff is the people's champ. He takes
the people's champ.
And you know what? I have been on the receiving end, and you know, I've made peace with it. But you know, I appreciate everybody that wants to make our sport clean and as rotten apple free as we can get. And how it's done is kind of less important as, you know, making sure that it happens that way, because we've got a bunch of really great people here. You know, it starts with having great tournament directors that stand back and, you know, stand in the side just off the front stage and don't feel like they need to be in the spotlight like we've been talking about. Chris Morales does that, and he's got some great people behind him helping out too. Chris Delgado, love him.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Slim.
Slim. Christina is his wife, and taking care of all the things that she does for after the tournament's over. There's so many things that go into making a tournament a trail work well that if it doesn't go well, it's jarring, and you can just feel how uncomfortable people are. But when it goes right, it's the tournament director doesn't get near as much credit as they should, but everybody feels it. It's just a good feeling, good vibe for people to be around it, and that's definitely what we had this last weekend at the SETXKBL Classic, and I was so proud to be a part of it, and I'm honored to be wearing this chain for real.
That's good, man. It looks good on you. I like it. I'm waiting for the next release hip hop album to be released.
Defend this for sure. Next year they're gonna call me 2 Chains.
I mean, I saw talking trash already. I like it. By the way,
those guys, they're already gearing up for next year. And
oh no, yeah, I talked to Mark Pendergraph when I had him on the podcast, kind of talking about a little bit of having that bullseye on your back, and I was one of them when I fished the Slay Nation Texas, and at the last minute was entered, and I'm going to the captain's meeting. I see, what the heck is Mark Pendergraph doing here? But in the sense that I was like, I wanted, all of us out there, you want to take down names. When you start off, you understand maybe you're just, at this point, just giving out your lunch money to people. But once you're in your second year, you're ready to start winning some money. Not necessarily winning money, because I don't really care about the money. I'll take it if I win it, but more the respect and the sense of accomplishment. So when you see guys like Mark Pendergraph, I see him on a tournament like Brian Howell, another one that's doing great in the Hobie BOS. I'm rooting for them when I'm on the water. I just want to beat them, and I don't want to beat them when they're struggling. I want to beat them when they're having a good tournament.
Right.
Hopefully not a great tournament.
Well,
but
you want to beat people at their best, so
Yeah.
that you know how you measure up, and that's a lot of what we do. It's not about the money, and that's why it's so jarring when you run across people that decide they're going to take shortcuts or cheat or whatever. It's like you're just making a mockery of the whole aspect of trying to have a fair, level, balanced playing field. And if you don't do that, then you're just cheating yourself. And I love it. I love being around people. I love the tournament series that I've been involved in. It's a fantastic feeling getting up in the morning, getting to be around people that have the similar ethos and similar big dreams that we all have about landing those big fish and sacking out a big limit. And I'm just every single morning that I get up ready to get on the water, it just feels like a blessing.
Definitely. By the way, I was going to mention, and I got off subject, but Christopher the God, I think, won Big Bass, $300. Congratulations to Slim.
Yeah.
I think, right? Yeah. Didn't he win Big Bass? If I remember correctly.
He got his personal best, 23 3/4, 7+ pounder.
23 3/4, wow.
Yeah, and if you've seen the video of him, he sounds like he was just about ready to fall over. He was just so stunned. I would have been thrilled to have, caught a fish like that. I mean, anytime you get a fish that's 20+ inches, when you see that mouth open up and come out of the water, yeah, your heart will about leap right out of your throat.
Yeah, definitely. So congratulations to Christopher Legado,
Sure.
Great guy.
Yeah.
Also a great ambassador here for Texas kayak fishing. What's been your personal best, Andrew?
I was fishing, if you know the Austin area, Ladybird Lake, which is like right downtown. Yep. I was fishing that at night. I think it was 9.5 pounds. Didn't make double digits, but I think it stretched out to 25 inches.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a monster. It was just fun fishing though, so it didn't really count for anything. I had a good one during the Cat series on Lake LBJ. That was a 24 plus. I can't remember exact. That went 8 pounds. That was my best tournament fish. I've had some good tournament fish, and which is kind of out of sequence with what I typically throw. I mean, I'm a Senko, finesse, kind of. I'll work an area so completely thoroughly that if you come after me, you're probably not going to catch too much. So just any fair warning about anybody who wants to potlick any water that I'm on. But yeah, my style is not power fishing. It's more finesse. It's more, drop shop, wacky rig. Work an area until it's completely done.
And there's something to be said about that, because some of us as guys, I mean, like, I started doing, that's finesse fishing, because, once you start off, usually unless you're like Jeff Isham, which came out of the womb with a bait caster, apparently, because I think he said he's never thrown a spin cast before. I was shocked when he said that on the podcast. I'm like, we never thrown this, like, God. But for most of us, you start fishing, you just start out of those little Sepcos or that your dad bought when you were little, or then eventually you go into
10 Zepco 202s that he just
Yeah.
break and buy another one, and that's what I grew up with. And I thought I was really big time when I got a Zepco 33, one of the $10 reels.
Yeah.
When I finally went up to a spinning reel, a Mitchell 300 or whatever it was, I thought, wow, can't get any better than this.
Yeah.
Now I'm, dropping $250 on a rod or a reel and not thinking twice about it.
Yeah, that's exactly. And that was my point. You start off with most of us start off being a finesse fisherman because, well, we're still learning to cast, and we don't want to start off with the bait cast, so you usually start off with the spin. For those that didn't grow up fishing, I'm not from that southern bluegrass culture where you grew up bass fishing since you were little. Kind of like in the same thing that you were saying, I started fishing with my dad when just throwing worms out there for panfish. It was nothing serious about going to bass fishing. So going back to that, a lot of us start off with just, being a finesse fisherman, and we move on to power fishing. We move on to the nice, heavy, very high-end equipment because we love it. But there's something to be said, about the finesse fishing, and it is a consistent bite. And proof is in the pudding. You won Angler of the Year on one of the most demanding tournaments here in Texas. But it's because you got that consistent bite, and you can hit a home run every now and then. But what's gonna get you to that Angler of the Year is that constant putting 5 fish limit, as much as you can. A lot of times it's not gonna be in the 90s, but if on every tournament you're putting 5 fish, you're giving yourself a chance of winning an Angler of the Year race. And for those out there that I don't like, finesse fishing, that's fine. I don't like finesse fishing as well, but the reality is, once you can find that happy medium of what you like doing, what you really don't like doing, but being able to put it in effect where it's beneficial to you, when it, applying that technique, even if you don't like it, at the right time, at the right lake, at the right moment, could bear fruits of, like yourself, winning an Angler of the Year.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, my background, I was exposed to fishing up in Minnesota, where my folks are originally from, and up there it's all about northern pike and walleye.
Yeah.
And largemouth bass are kind of like, they don't have the spotlight the way the other fish do. I also lived out in the Los Angeles area, Southern California, for 3 years, and I fished a lot of trout. I was fishing with 2-pound test lines, so I guess the what you get accustomed to when you're growing up kind of allows you to understand, just you don't need to have big baits. You don't need to have 20-pound monofilament or flora or whatever to horse these rascals in. Sometimes you can just finesse them and bring them up. And I like to equate myself in baseball terms to a high average contact hitter who can go the opposite way. Like maybe I'm a Rod Carew, but
Tony Gwynn.
Yeah, I'm a Tony Winner or Rod Carew.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Man, Rod Carew, I forgot about him.
Yeah, I'm a Twins fan, so I gotta mention Rod Carew.
Yeah. One of the great ones when it comes to contact hitting. I grew up a Cubs fan, so I remember Mark Grace, the first baseman, being that type of player that always gets on base, always gets on base. You never see him 20 home runs, but he's always in that 300 average, and that's what you need when we're talking. When we apply that to an Angler of the Year race, that's what you need.
Yep.
Being able to that consistent bite. And hey, if you can do it while you're power fishing, more power to you. But for the most part, finesse fishing is what's going to really get you that consistent bite. I've heard it so many times, and I've seen the fruits of the labor.
Too.
Yeah,
you gotta listen to what the fish are telling you, and sometimes, you can't get too locked into one technique. You can't get locked into another. Sometimes they want that power bait, that power fishing approach, and sometimes you got to use the moving baits. Sometimes you got to get fish fast. You got to cover water. It's just a matter of making those casts. And during the colder months, I throw an A-rig, and that's kind of what I'm known for among the SETXKBL guys is my A-rig ability. And that's just something I use during the colder months. I didn't even touch it for this last tournament, probably because if you snag an A-rig and break that off, you're out 20, 35.
Yeah, pretty much. But man, again, congratulations to what you've done. What's been one of your favorite lakes to fish, whether it's tournament or non-tournament? But here in Texas, what's one of your favorite lakes?
My favorite tournament lake is probably Fayette, just because it produces good quality fish consistently. I mean, I've had my days out there when I've skunked. I'm not gonna lie about that, but when you get on them, you can get on a bunch of them, and they're usually strong, healthy fish. The other lake that I consider my home lake, it's about 15 minutes away from me, is Lake Decker, which I don't know if you fish Decker. It's kind of like Fairfield, a lot of vegetation, a lot of reeds around the edges, some hydrilla. It's a municipal lake, so it gets a lot of pressure, but at the same time, it also can produce some pretty big fish. I mean, I think my run of catching 23-inch fish, 23 to 24-inch fish, nothing comes close. That if I'm going to catch a nice 7-8 pound fish, I'm going to try for it out of Decker because it has some really, really quality bass if you hit it at the right time.
You mentioned something I kind of want to touch on because I've mentioned on the podcast before, but you used a term that maybe a lot of people are not familiar with. You said municipal lake. What do you mean when you say municipal lake?
Well, just a lake that's within the city limits.
Yeah.
Gets a fair amount of pressure. You're going to be sharing that lake with recreational anglers, with people out there just paddling around, having fun, and some people at the ramp are going to know what they're doing, and some people aren't. I mean, East Texas, you're out there to fish for the most part, and the people at your ramp you're going to see are there to talk about fishing too. And we get some strange looks when we're out there on the kayaks in East Texas. They're looking at us like, "What the heck are you guys doing using our ramp? Why don't you get off our ramp and use the shoreline like you should be doing?" Hey, I paid $5. I'm going to use that ramp.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry if I got off on a
No, I mean, you're right. You're absolutely right. We try not to take too long, obviously, on the ramp. But yeah, I mean, you can pay $5. You have as much right. You try not to hug all the time and make a line. But yeah, you have the right to use a ramp. Go ahead. If it's safer for you, use it. Like you said, some lakes you have no choice but to use the ramp, even though you're on a kayak. And a lot of times it's the tournament rules. Some tournaments out there, they'll be specific. You can only launch from a public ramp, even though you're on a kayak. So you got to follow those rules as well. But yeah, man, definitely, I like you. I wanted to get your thoughts on what you meant with a municipal lake. I usually call them like city lakes, but for those that are not familiar, that's what we're in Texas, and I'm sure other parts of the country use that term municipal lake. It's those city lakes there. It's more recreational than bass boats. You'll get the occasional bass boat fisherman, but if here in Texas, for Central Texas or North Texas, Dallas-Fort Worth area, talk about the Louisville, the Ray Hubbards, versus Lake
Yeah.
Joe Pool Lake, all those
Yeah.
versus, like the Lake Forks, and I've mentioned it on my podcast, and that's one of the things that I love about East Texas. You got a lot of those country lakes that the whole town, surrounding towns, are just revolved about that kayak fishing podcast. I mean, kayak fishing or fishing, bass fishing culture, I should say. It all revolves around it. Like Lake Fork is just one of the things about great at it. It's just everything, every surrounding town or city around the lake is just revolves around fishing and bass fishing.
Yeah, one of the things I love going about, or when I go to East Texas fishing some of those lakes like Rayburn and Palestine and Athens, anybody you meet at the ramp, they're going to have a conversation with you about your kayak because you're kind of like an alien from another planet. They want to talk to you. I mean, when I was in the hotel parking lot for this last tournament, I had several people come up to me and start asking me questions about my kayak and what I was doing there and what lake I was fishing, what I was going to do. It's you're right. It's just a whole culture and everybody's immersed in it, and they couldn't be more friendly too. And that's the other thing I love about fishing is just the conversations, the people you meet, and the friends you make.
Yeah. And once you're on the water and you're fishing, even if you don't catch anything, people are just in a nice mood. They're just friendly. They want to talk to you. They'll talk to you. They'll ask you how you did and what you catch them on, and and stuff like that. And it's nice camaraderie. You get to have good, or what's the word I'm looking for? You get to have just one-on-one conversations with people that we now live in a culture where we don't even walk down the street. You don't say hi to anybody. You just live in our old world, and that applies to me as well. The world that I grew up with and the world that it is now is two completely different worlds. But once you're in out fishing, for better or worse, you get a lot of interaction with people. Not always it's going to be nice. Some people don't like fishing at their spot, and maybe somebody run into some inconsiderate glitter boat captain. But for the most part, you get a nice conversations with people on the water because for the most part, everybody's in a good mood. You're on the water. You're not working. So,
and that kind of jarred my memory here about Palestine. There were two big bass boat tournaments going on at the same time as ours, and I didn't have any problems. I mean, maybe some folks did. I don't recall them hearing too many conversations. I mean, John B. from the Guggen squad was out there. There's some other big names that were out there from some of the other tournament series, MLF, and some of those other series. We were sharing the water, and I'd talk to them and have a few words for them, encouraging words, and they shoot it right back at me and wish me luck. And we were both trying to get that 10-pounder out from under that dock, but we were respectful of each other's space. And I think when you communicate and you don't come across as a jerk or being extremely territorial, people respond to that, and they're not going to be negative toward you. And that's what we got to do is be ambassadors for our sport.
Yeah, I think a lot of times you get upset at somebody doing something, but if you have that. If you make that interaction first, like try to diffuse kind of any tension before it starts. I've been on the water where times where it's like, okay, I want to fish this spot. I see a bass boat there. I know I'm good. I know I'm not breaking any unwritten rules. But just to be on the safe side, I'll wave, say, hey, you don't mind if I come across you? You don't mind if I fin this spot? And that helps a lot. Not everybody's going to have that consideration in the water with you. Not every bass boat that comes across me has the same courtesy that I show to them, and that's fine. I try to just kind of look the other way and not make a big deal out of it. Right. And I think that's one of the things I encourage guys on the water is like, hey, listen, I know you got, like, I hear stories and we on the boat ramp and talking to guys, hey, what happened? What was the whole problem? A lot of it is, man, it's just avoidable. If you just go the extra mile, let's not be too proud and just say, hey, do you mind? Even though if you got there first, even if you feel you have the right way for whatever reason, just, just wave high, say, you don't mind, I'm going to do this. Is that okay? I notice you're heading that way. Do you want me to go around? You want me to go left? It goes a long way. to just being out there. Because sometimes you get so involved, like, I want to win this tournament. I want to win this tournament. I got, you forget there might be somebody out there with their kids and want to show them a good time. Their time on the water is just as important as yours. They might be fishing on a tournament. So it's just having that conversation, that showing that courtesy goes a long way.
Right. And, if you get too inside your head or get too angry at somebody else, you're going to ruin your day. And you're not going to be allowing yourself to concentrate on what you should be doing. So, if you take yourself out of the game by worrying about what somebody else is doing, then you've just hurt yourself. So I try to diffuse situations. I know I've been guilty of having a bad interaction with people that were not respectful of my space and just kind of pretended like I didn't exist. And the municipal lakes that we fish here in Austin get pretty crowded, so I don't mind fishing in a crowd. I've had to learn to adapt to that. And sometimes you're going to find people that just don't have the sense of boundaries where kayaks are concerned. And I try to at least let them know that I'm there and we're going to have a conversation, and it's kind of up to them how good that conversation is going to go.
Yeah, it's some things are inevitable. Other ones, it's like you mentioned, you can only control what you say and how you handle it. You can't control what other people do. So if the way you're going to handle it, it's going to make it worse, then better you.
And I'm not going to
better rethink the strategy.
Competition by losing my temper, and that's something I've learned over time, that you can't hamstring yourself or handicap yourself by being over emotional. You got to stay within yourself, concentrate on making every cast a good one, and if you do that for 7, 8, 9 hours, however long your tournament's running, then you're going to give yourself a chance. But there are 100 things can go wrong on the lake. You can lose focus, and if that happens, then you're dead. And
worse even not have a good time. That's the worst tragedy you can have. Well, not the worst tragedy. You can drown. That would be a worst tragedy. I should clarify. But other than drowning, not making it home, the other worst tragedy would be like, not having fun out there.
Right.
So, have fun, enjoy it. That's it.
Right. And we get pretty serious about what we do. I mean, we're fishing at the highest level for our sport, I think. And, we put a lot of time and investment, both time away from our families and, the amount of money that we sink into these plastic boats of ours. But, at the end of the day, if you're not having fun, why are you doing it?
Yep, definitely. Now, before I let you go, Andrew, I kind of wanted to do a brief rundown. What's your kayak? First of all, what kayak are you using? What electronics are you putting in it? Any trolling motors? Tell us a little bit about your rig.
Well, my
quick
rig,
rundown.
My rig that I used in this last tournament, I got 4 kayaks, so I've got some options. But the ones that I use primarily, a native Slayer Propel 13, and my electronics, I've got, it's kind of modular. I just run it along the rails and then can switch it out between kayaks if I want to. It's Lowrance HDS 9-inch screen. I just won a trolling motor as part of my Angler of the Year winning.
Oh yeah,
Motorcraft XI1, and I'm going to get rigged up for that. That may change my opinion of people who use kayak or fish tournaments out of motorized vehicles. So I may have to back up on some of the words that I've spoken against them in the past. But the sport's evolving. It's getting more and more geared toward having. I started off in a paddle kayak, and I fished out of that for the first 3 years. Started out of a Tamarack Angler 10-footer, and then jumped up to a Wilderness Ride 135 and fished that for a couple of years. Then moved over to the native Propel 13. I also have a Diablo Amigo that I won. That's a fun boat. And I'll paddle that around occasionally. Do a little bit of river fishing on that one. But I have options, and anybody who thinks that you have to have top of the line boats or top of the line electronics, it certainly helps, but you don't necessarily have to have that to win.
Yep. No, definitely you don't. Look at which I had 2 episodes ago, Drew Gregory. Not saying that the Crescent Kayak's not a great platform, but it's a very simplistic kayak. It's there's nothing fancy about it. It's a great product, quality product, no doubt about that. But when you compare it to like a Hobie or a Old Town Sportsman,
Yep.
it's a lot simpler kayak, and yet Drew Gregory's, if not the best angler right now, definitely in the top three in the conversation of best kayak bass fishing angler right now, and and very little electronics too. Yeah. Speaking of which, what electronics do you use?
Lowrance HDS. It's. I'm not that great on electronics, but some of the lakes I fish kind of demand that you have to get off the shore and figure out what's going on underneath you. And I'm not a bank feeder. I try to get away from that if I can. I did a lot of that on Palestine just because it's a shallower lake, and I think the pattern right now is docks. So you can live and die by your electronics if you're good at it. You can definitely set yourself a bit apart from the rest of the pack. Maybe one day I'll get a live scope. I'm not there yet now, but maybe one day.
And favorite setup, rod and reel?
Man, I've got such a mixed match of stuff. And I try to take out about 7 or 8 rods when I do my tournament fishing, and then switch through them during the day. Probably my favorite, and I use a Senko, a T-Rig Senko on Shimano Chronarch,
Nice.
and a Shimano rod, 7-footer, and it's just, or 7 and 3 inches, 7 foot 3 inches. It's an older rod. It's not that fancy or anything, but it just feels right.
Quality rod.
Yeah, if you've got a rod in your hand that just it feels right, it makes a big difference, And if you're fighting with your equipment, then you're not going to have the confidence to just hone in on what you need to do to get inside the fish's head. That's when you're in the zone and you're catching fish, there's no better feeling.
That's true. One last question before I let you do your plugins and thank who you want to thank. When do you take off that chain? When you got home with that chain and, that night you were going to celebrate with the wife, did you take it off or did you have it on the whole time?
I took it home. I showed it to my wife. She laughed at me and she thought it was the greatest thing ever. So I wore it around for a good long time, and I gave her my impression of, I don't know if you ever watched Robot Chicken, but there's a character on there called Eagle Eye.
Yeah.
His rallying cry that I use when I walk through the door is, "I'm a champion." So that's what I have to tell her. I'm a champion.
All right, so we'll leave it at that then. When was the last time you took that chain off? But man, again, congratulations, Andrew. Great job.
Thanks.
Being solid all season, and again, one of the most demanding tournaments with some of the best anglers here in Texas.
Yep.
Like you can put them up against anybody in the nation, and they'll still show their quality as anglers. So it wasn't easy. I'm sure it wasn't. But again, congratulations. I'll give you a few minutes if you want to thank anybody you want to thank. I'm sure the wife is going to be one of them, considering he lets you keep 4 kayaks in the garage and fished all the tournaments for the Southeast Texas.
Yeah, that's definitely a consideration. The next house I'm going to get is going to have a 3-car garage, so I can have a spot to stow my kayaks. My wife Anna is a good fisherwoman in her own right. She's actually, she had a really good tournament day on Palestine about 4 years ago where she shamed me and she outfished me, and the guys that we were fishing with on the Cats tournament that day never let me live that one down. She's wonderful. She lets me fish. The agreement is I have to split whatever I win with her 50-50. So yeah, I didn't make that much money for anybody.
Yeah, I think the winnings was what, $200?
So yeah, she's gives up a lot of her time to take care of my mom. She lives with us. She's 92 years old, and for me to be out of the picture and falling on Anna's shoulders to have to take care of my mom, it's quite a sacrifice for her. And we have to be in sync. If your family life doesn't line up well, then you're not going to have a good tournament. You're not going to have a happy life. I'll tell you that. So I'm blessed to have a wife that's very indulgent of me being away and doing as much fishing and pre-fishing as I do. I'd like to thank Chris Morales for running the SETXKBL. All the time and effort that he puts in. It's an excellent series. I'd like to thank Joseph Sanderson for being a tournament director along with me and Chris for the TKC. I'd like to thank Caden Paskowitz for running Cats. I'm also in the Cats Classic coming up here in the next month. All the tournament directors here in Texas, y'all are doing a great job. Keep it up. Texas is strong. We're going to be strong. And I wish we could show off more than we do in some of these national tournaments. If we weren't so dang far away from the rest of those folks out in the Southeast, we'd be showing them up. But hook them. We're a hell of a state, and I'm proud to represent SETXKBL as their Angler of the Year for 2021.
Congratulations, man. Wear that chain proud.
Will do.
Andrew, thank you again so much for joining us. For those out there listening, go check out the sponsors for the Bass Kayak and Beers podcast. Go to check out DouglasOutdoors.com. Full lineup LRS rods, X-Matrix rods, and the award-winning fly fishing rods or Sky G rods. So thank you again to Andrew for joining us. If you're going to be out on the water, guys, out there listening, girls out there listening, please wear your PFDs. Be safe. Have a great time on the water. See you next week. Peace out.